advice I give to men is, the first thing I ask is, would you want to have sex with you? Are you in shape? Do you have a plan? Are you kind? Do you demonstrate artisanship and interest in different things? How do you demonstrate excellence? And the advice I would give to women is what I call a second coffee. And that is, I think women are celebrated for exiting relationships, inspiring Carly Simon songs about walking out on that man and you don't need a man. And when surveys, when men are asked if a woman had 80% of everything you want, would that suffice for you? 75% of men say, yeah, that'd be great. When women presented with the same metric, 80% of everything you want, 75% say that's not enough.
They need like 95% or 100% of what they want.
Well, and again, I think that, let me go straight to the solve. The solve is for men to level up.
Yes.
But if you look at kind of the content and what algorithms like, it's a lot of women saying, like a basic standard metric is because, and I think it's happened because of online dating, where the metrics get distilled down to some very base crude things. 6 feet, 6 figures. Like, that's not a lot to ask, right? 6 feet, 6 figures. If you take out married men, obese men, men over the age of 50, it's 2% of the population.
Wow.
And if you talk to people who've been married longer than 30 years, 80% of them say one was much more interested in the beginning than the other. And it was almost always the man. The reality is, Lewis, we're less choosy. If you have a room with 100 people, 50 men and 50 women, and there's alcohol involved, the majority of the men would agree to have sex with the majority of the women. The majority of the women would sleep with none of the men. Mm-hmm. Women are choosier. And typically what's happened in these relationships where people end up together is the woman says, I wasn't initially that interested, but I liked the way he treated his parents at church. We hung out with the same friend group and I found he was funny. I liked the way he danced. I liked the way he smelled. I found that he was really kind. I was so impressed with him at work. He was outstanding at what he does. Where does a man, what venues now does a young man have to demonstrate excellence, right? If they're not going to church, they're not going to school, they're not going to work, where do they have the opportunity to develop the skills and then demonstrate their strengths and skills over time? And instead, it's kind of been consolidated now to the one medium where most people are mating or finding dates, and that is online. And anytime you digitize any market, it does become a winner-take-most environment. And then they're up against this almost indomitable foe, and that is 40% of the S&P by market value now is related to AI, the Magnificent 10. And their objective, they're not malicious, but unwittingly, the algorithms have figured out for every second we can take someone out of the organic mammalia world and put them on a screen, we can monetize it. And the person who is most susceptible to arbitraging their real life to an online life is a young man because of a less mature prefrontal cortex, the executive function, the susceptibility to addiction around constant dopa. So ground zero for our economy right now, our monetizing our young people to drive trillions of dollars in value, is essentially trying to sequester young men from their relationships. So I worry that at the hands of this godlike technology regulated by Paleolithic instincts and medieval institutions, that we're evolving a new species of asocial, asexual males. And my prediction is, unless we weigh in with programs and regulate big tech, when you go to malls, I'm doing a live podcast tonight with 2,000 people, I think you are going to visibly see fewer and fewer young men. I think they are
going out or going to events?
Going out in the real world.
Huh.
I think more and more of them are going to be alone in a room with a screen. And why go through the pecking order of trying to establish friends when you have Reddit and Discord? Why put on a tie, show up, try and navigate the difficulties and complexities of the workplace when you think you can trade stocks or crypto on Robinhood or Coinbase? And why would you go through the effort, the expense, the potential rejection, humiliation, effort, perseverance, willingness to endure rejection, involved in establishing a romantic or a sexual relationship when you have synthetic, lifelike porn at home? So I think we're going to have essentially, I mean, there's now 1 out of 7 men are called NEETs. They're neither in education, employment, or in training. They're literally doing nothing. And 63% of men under the age of 30 aren't even trying to date.
How do they survive if you're not doing anything except for consuming all day?
Yeah.
And you're not developing skills, offline or even online skills, to create value in the world? How are you surviving? Is it just you're getting checks from the government or your family or people paying for them, or how does this work?
It's a really good question. There are government services, everything from SNAP to unemployment to welfare to Medicaid. They had stimulus checks during COVID. 1 out of 3 men under the age of 25 is living at their parents. 1 out of 5 under the age of 30. At 30, 1 in 5 men are still living at home. So I think that some part-time work, some government assistance, their parents, but yeah, a lot of men, and I won't even say men, because my Yoda around all of this is Richard Reeves. Have you had Richard on your podcast? So Richard brings like the data and the actual rigor. I'm just louder than him.
Yeah.
But he has this great litmus test for when a male becomes a man, because I do think a lot of males die never really having become men.
When does a male become a man?
I love this term used as surplus value. When you approach relationships from a generative viewpoint. So growing up, I say to my boys, you're negative value right now. You got a school spending a ton of time and resources on you. Your parents are giving you more love than you're giving us. Society is providing you with roads. If you call 911, someone's going to pick up. You're not generating any tax revenue.
You're not adding value.
You're negative value everywhere. And at some point, I think when you become a man, it's not age, it's not some sort of religious ceremony. It's when you are generating more economic value than you're absorbing. It's when you're noticing people's lives and absorbing more complaints than you're making. Quite frankly, it's when you're giving more love and more cloud cover for other people than you have received. You're adding surplus value is the term that Richard uses, right?
Yes.
And I think a lot of males never get there. I still know people who call their parents a bitch and complain when their parents are 80. And it's like, okay, at some point it needs to flip where you're taking care of your parents. And also, I came to this conclusion recognizing I didn't really, by that standard, become a man until I was in my 40s, because I used to be that guy that approached every relationship of, if I wasn't getting more joy and camaraderie from a friend than I was giving, it was like, I'm on the wrong side of this capitalist trade, and I'd exit the friendship.
Interesting.
If I spent time with my girlfriend's parents when they were in town, I would expect her to spend as much or more time. If I felt an employee wasn't giving me a lot more value than I was paying them, I'm thinking, okay, this isn't working, and I'd let them go. I was all about this mindset of relationships as a transaction. And then what I've come to realize is like, that's the opposite of what it means to add surplus value and be a man. That the ultimate kind of litmus test is, first you got to take care of yourself. You got to fix your own oxygen mask. Then you take care of your family. Then you take care of your community, ideally take care of your country or protect your country. And then the ultimate expression, I think, of manhood is you plant trees the shade of which, you'll never sit under. So it's been a kind of a journey for me, but I like the idea, this notion of surplus generative value in relationships.
I love that. I used to think that you become a man, and maybe it's more emotionally or spiritually, when you have a child and when you lose your father. Like, you have to step into some type of spiritual breakthrough. But then I was like, okay, well, anyone could have kids. They could just have lots of kids, but not really be there as a father, as a dad. So, and when I lost my father a few years ago, I really felt like, oh, something shifted in me.
Thank you for watching this video. If you want more inspiring clips like this, make sure to click right here to subscribe, and click right here to watch that next video that is specific to support you in your life.